retailers and not others. Macy's is another one that saw international tourism get weaker and weaker actually all the way through 2018, and effectively a continuation of that. And so that hits Macy's when they have these big flagship stores in big cities.
Right.
And then if you're a company like PVH and you're selling internationally and you have a global brand recognition, you also attract that tourism dollar in the United States. That's a big issue.
I think something else is going on as well. I have a very close friend who has worked in the textile business for. We're seeing a slowdown in retail sales anyway.
I did forget until he brought it up, Rick, and he was very unhappy about the strong dollar because, I mean, these results even lag a little while, and every day we check it, it looks stronger. And did you see the argument in the Journal today which said the Fed should lower rates on kegs and up to 1,731% on mattresses?
How is that even possible?
Wow.
How
The
much
dumping
does that
or the tariffs?
How
Yeah,
much
no.
does that mattress cost then after all that?
They already cost a lot, and if they're being dumped.
The one thing I was thinking about with the mattresses is you're supposed to replace your mattress once every 8 years. I doubt anybody does that. It takes me a lot longer.
Years?
Once every 8 years, right? You're supposed to replace
How
your
often
mattress.
have you replaced?
I turn mine over every
Right, right, exactly. So my point is, if you only buy it, let's say you buy it once in a decade, do you really know what the difference in the price of the mattress was? I mean, that could be like one saving grace for the mattress industry.
All the prices going up, we know how it's going to end.
Right.
People are going to cut back on everything so they can buy their kegs, and they're going to be sleeping on the floor.
I'm worried about the college parties around the country.
I do wonder, like a foam mattress like Casper, which has become so popular now, is it all going to depend on what's the exact wording of what qualifies as a mattress?
That's a good point.
Just, there's so many enumerations of how this could work in practice.
How do you define is?
Right, exactly.
How do you define mattress?
Not to mention, I mean, if the cost of kegs goes up that much, we're talking about, I would imagine, bars and restaurants everywhere, right, who are absorbing this, not just, we're thinking of the frat
this is
parties.
one area of the trade war we haven't discussed much.
Senator and presidential candidate set up a billboard in the middle of San Francisco, just a couple blocks from the corporate headquarters of companies like Airbnb, Lyft, and Dropbox. There it is.
The reason I brought that up is because that was 2011, and the last time, let's see, 2011, that was when the Lakers were the two-time defending world champions. We still had a basketball team back then.
For Lakers fans.
I don't remember a time when LeBron wasn't in my life. So I grew up in Ohio.
In your life?
In
Ohio.
In Ohio. Like,
where are you going with this?
So I grew up in Ohio, right? And my brother is LeBron's age, and my brother played basketball. So from the time that my brother was very young, and thus I was very young, we always heard this name LeBron, this phenom kid from Akron. And so people would come from miles around to watch a middle schooler play.
Wow.
And he would sell out arenas. And I think in high school they had to move a lot of his games to the University of Akron because of all these people coming. So anyways, it's been phenomenal and thrilling to watch him all these years. So I am sad that he's not in the playoffs, but he left Cleveland to go try to win another championship. I'm just saying.
The thing is, you had LeBron on the Eastern Conference the last 8 years. He was the big star. There's no real big star in Toronto other than
Been around Drake's interaction with the coach.
He did
fans.
the shoulder rub on the coach, on Coach Nick Nurse. I don't know if we have a photo of that, but that actually caused a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And the NBA Raptors and say, tell Drake to cool it. He needs to stay on his side of the line.
Final question, just to put you on the spot. What is what is it called? The spread, the line, whatever, for the playoffs? Because it would seem the Warriors are a pretty big favorite.
Well, the Warriors are definitely the favorite.
Okay, so for Toronto to get here was a major upset.
Right.
And what was that stat I read today? Half the population of Toronto is foreign-born.
That's why a lot of these leagues want to expand into Toronto, because you get a different type of diverse audience.
Yeah.
And their population's big. They'd be like the third or fourth biggest city in U.S.
They love their Raptors. I mean, there are viewing parties all over the city now tonight. Yeah.
And Deirdre Bosa, I think, is a big fan.
Yes, she is.
All right, Eric, thanks very much. Thanks, everybody. Rick, good to see you. You're here tomorrow or no?
I'm here tomorrow.
All right.
But I'm not going to talk basketball.
Back to the debt. I want to hear about those trillions in the debt.
Talk trillions of debt, not all the money that we've lost betting on the Bulls over the last year.
Oh, yeah, Bulls fan over here.
Rick, Courtney, and Bill, thank you all. Appreciate it. Coming up, tariffs have had a major impact on some companies, and my next guest says his is no exception. In fact, he's at a point of no return, saying he has to raise prices or layoffs could be next. The CEO
Public Report. Courtney Reagan is monitoring Costco, that Stephanie will be watching. Also Cap and William Sonoma. And Eric Chemi has Dell for us. Deirdre, though, first to you, the #1 thing to watch in Uber's numbers is...
Deirdre, thanks very much for that. Courtney Reagan has a preview of all the retail names for us. Court.
Hi there, Will. So Costco expected to post earnings of $1.82 on revenues of $34.706 billion. Growth of more than 7% for both of those metrics. Now remember, Costco still reports monthly comps. Those grew nearly 5% for the quarter. Gap Inc. total comparable sales, though, expected to fall more than 1%, with growth only at Old Navy, lower comps at Banana Republic and Gap Global expected. And then earnings estimates are for 32 cents. That's 25% below last year on $3.77 billion of revenues. And then Williams-Sonoma expected to show slight earnings and revenue growth of 69 cents and $1.237 billion respectively, with comps up 1.7%, led by the West Elm division. Sarah?
All right, thanks, Courtney. Eric Chemi now. What can we expect from Dell's results?
When we get those numbers.
It's not just Uber. We're also awaiting results from Costco, Gap, Williams, Sonoma, Ulta, Dell, and VMware. We'll bring you all the numbers as soon as they hit, though. First, joining us to talk about the market day.
Where the Gap and CEO Art Peck says as much. He says it was extremely challenging. He's not at all satisfied with these results. Earnings coming in for the first quarter, 24 cents adjusted. The street had been looking for 32 cents. Revenues also slightly missing at $3.71 billion. Consensus was for $3.77 billion. Total comps down 4%. They were expected to be down just more than 1%. Gap Global, very weak. Those comps were down 10%. Analysts were looking for them to fall, but only about 4%. Old Navy, usually the standout, also lower. Those comps down by 1%. They were expected to be up by about 1%. And the guidance that Gap is giving for the full year earnings well below Wall Street's expectations. The guidance of 205 to 215 compared to 245 consensus. Back over to you.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Costco's numbers, we have an adjusted earnings of $1.89. That does beat Wall Street's consensus. They were looking for $1.82. Revenues pretty dead on here at $34.7 billion. Comps coming in at 5.5%. The strongest for the segmentations geographically for the comps was the U.S. For the last 12 weeks, those were up 7%. No guidance here. Pretty brief and quick and dirty earnings release, but so far Costco shares are down just about 1% after moving up very quickly. Back over to you.
Yeah, it's been such an output.
Sonoma first quarter turning in 81 cents adjusted. The street had just been looking for 69 cents, so that's a nice beat. Revenues effectively in line, $1.24 billion. That's what the street was expecting. When it comes to the guidance, in line, EPS guidance, the company is raising it by 5 cents, and the CEO, Laura Alber, noting both that is due to what they saw in this quarter and the strength they are seeing early in the second quarter or that current quarter right now. And these comps very strong, up 3.5%. That's double as strong as what the street had been expecting. West Elm, really impressive performance. Those comps up 11.8%. Wall Street had been looking for growth of 8%. Pottery Barn also better than expected. The main brand, that Williams-Sonoma brand, though, down 1.6% for the comps, and that is slightly worse than was expected. But shares of Williams-Sonoma charging higher, almost 12% right here after the bell. Back over to you, Sarah.
Well, I wonder if they produce less product.
Been relatively transparent, of course, without giving away sort of their trade secrets about what they're trying to do to mitigate what they're doing because of the tariffs. And CEO Laura Alber spoke to our Jim Cramer about that probably within the last month or so. So they've been doing what they can. And she said, look, it's impossible not to raise some prices in some areas, but largely they've been able to iron out some of those costs. So that's pretty impressive as well.
And Courtney Reagan, welcome, welcome. Constellation Brands is down today on President Trump's go up to 25%. It reduced how the consumer is likely to react.
I don't know. I guess it depends. I mean, how finicky a beer drinker are you? I like both. So if I had the choice and I'm at the supermarket and I'm faced with the prices, I might go to Bud Light instead of Pacifico. If I'm at a restaurant, probably not.
But I think the whole thing about Mexican beers, it's made in Mexico. It's the
Gap Global brand. So the total store, Gap Inc., which is not total store, but the total parent company that includes all the brands, that was down 4%, which is still an awful lot. And even Old Navy, which has been the bright spot, which is going to be spun off into a separate company in 2020, those comps were down.
What's going to happen to all these Gap stores?
I don't know, and I think they're trying to figure it out. I mean, truly, Art Peck is doing his best to try to figure it out, and at least he comes out and sort of tells it like it is. You know, look, this was a crummy quarter, and we're not happy about it. They're trying to figure it out, and I think, you know, part of what has been Gap's problem for a very long time is how long it takes them to react to changing trends, and then it has to do with the supply chain, right? If you're fighting up against a Zara or an H&M, and that's fast fashion, they can turn things in 6 to 8 weeks. It takes Gap 4 or 5 months. They're getting faster, but they're not as fast.
And this has been true for a decade. I mean,
long time.
The Old Navy numbers, the fact that they saw a decline, I think, is probably one of the things that if I were an investor, I'd be most concerned.
Actually didn't come up in the earnings report, but could just be an additional add-on. An additional pain after that is, when we're talking and tying it back to our first story, men's and boys' jeans actually are the biggest apparel imports. So 35% of men's and boys' jeans here in the United States come from Mexico. Now, we've reached out to Gap Inc. because we know market share-wise, Gap is one of the leaders with Old Navy and for jeans in general, to see how much of a hit is this going to have on your business if jeans end up getting tariffed. And they haven't gotten back to us, but my gosh, that's just another hit to the business. 21% is currently of all of their goods manufactured in China.
All right, skipping Uber, let's talk some Amazon, because they might get involved in prepaid wireless. There are reports on Reuters that they might buy Boost Mobile from T-Mobile and Sprint. Sprint's looking to unload this to help it gain regulatory approval for the big merger with T-Mo. Amazon would get to use T-Mo's wireless network for at least 6 years after the deal, according to sources, and it wouldn't be their first cell phone venture. Obviously, they did the hardware, the Fire phone. This would be a totally different play.
It would, and we don't totally know what specifically Amazon would use this for based on that Reuters report.
Yeah, I can't imagine it wouldn't, as they get their paws in all sorts of different sectors.
It is like the ultimate case study in
8% this month, despite a May bounce back in the managed care sector. Cigna Chief Executive David Cordani is going to join us for an exclusive interview. They are holding their annual Investor Day, and we will speak to him next.
Conference is on Monday. Beyond Meat set to report its first quarterly results as a public company next week, and Walmart's annual meeting kicks off next Wednesday. Let's get a preview on all.
I will. So shareholders in Northwest Arkansas, it's an annual event Walmart hosts for investors, employees, media from around the world. Thousands of people come. And on Wednesday morning, the shareholder business will take place, including the election of the 12-person Walmart board. Bernie Sanders has been invited by Walmart employees to present a proposal requesting hourly workers get a seat on the company's board. It's not expected to pass. And Friday is the big arena event. That's a pep rally of sorts to reward Walmart workers from around the world with surprise celebrity guests and performances, and executives usually give a review of the year. Back over to you guys.
Court, thank you.
Has a CNBC News update for us. Courtney.
Hi, good morning, David. Here is your CNBC News update at this hour. Earlier today, President Trump. That's our CNBC News update for this hour. This weather has been wild. Sarah, back over to you.
All right, Courtney, thank you. When we come back, Evercore founder and senior chairman Reagan had key things you need to watch as we head into a new trading day. When Closing Bell comes right back. Look ahead, President Trump and the UK's outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May holding a news conference tomorrow morning. GM's annual meeting kicks off, and Tiffany set to report results before the bell. Wilfred, though, let's
Preview for us. Court.
Hi, Wilf. So Tiffany will report its first quarter before the bell Tuesday. The big question for investors is how the luxury jeweler is dealing with lower tourist spending around the world. It was an issue towards the end of 2018, and other retailers have reported lower Chinese tourist spending outside of China itself so far this year. But if Tiffany can sell more of its new products faster to local shoppers in each of its markets globally, i.e. non-tourists, that can help alleviate the issue. Still the strongest. Back over to you.
Courtney, thank you very much.
Courtney Reagan, Dominic Chu, and in person, direct from the West Coast, Jane Wells.
And dress like it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, we like it.
We need to do a camera pan, but we won't. We'll spare everybody.
I'm thinking comfy shoes.
Yes, and they're so cool. All right, first topic. The analysts have arrived. 19
are getting arrested for having a CBD product in their purse at Disney World. So that's what I think is really interesting. So does it work or does it not? People are seriously concerned.
There's also the public perception of the whole thing, right? The idea that you're like it. It's CBD equals THC.
I used a lotion one time. It made me feel less achy, but who knows? It was one time, one product. And
the Americas were down 25% from a year ago, with even sharper declines among Chinese tourists. Shares are holding up relatively well, Court, but
Very interesting. We talked about this before with Macy's, Kelly, and they saw that the tourist spending was getting acceleratingly worse throughout the year. Tiffany started to see it in the back half of the year. It was a major concern going into the print. We didn't think that things were going to turn out well, but they definitely turned out considerably worse. The other interesting piece of this, we talk an awful lot about tariffs. Tiffany's is going to have a concern on the flip side because when they send their jewelry into China, it's going to be subject to this 25% tariff that other European luxury players are not going to be subject to when they move or import their jewelry in. And so then that's going to be another pressure in mainland China where actually they're seeing strength from the local shoppers. So that could be another concern.
And one more wrinkle. Who are getting a fair amount of business from these customers.
That's exactly what I was thinking today. As I was listening to Tiffany, I thought, I wonder what's going on in the hotel business.
I think about the universities. USC, my alma mater. Right.
Earlier in the day and the day before that he was going to lose anyway.
They're trying to track it down. They're trying to track it. Yeah, but when I see a new headline from the New York Times, spoiler alert, don't find out what happens. I'm like, oh, well, now I know.
Now you know if it's about Jeopardy. But hey, congratulations to Emma. Was that her name?
Yeah.
Oh,
Emma.
Awesome.
I hope she goes on a
Exactly.
Guys, thanks. Reagan is here with us, along with Jan Kniffen, who's the CEO of J. Rogers Kniffen Worldwide and a CNBC contributor. And Jan, first to you, why?
Yeah, I think those are all sort of good ways to sum that up. If you look at the dividend yield, that's higher. They also raised their dividend. We looked at that at a number of other stocks as well. I'm not necessarily saying that's a reason why the stock is higher, but that's some things that folks are pointing out today, at least.
And it's interesting you mentioned that today because because the 10-year is so low, the entire S&P basically has a dividend yield that's now looking more and more attractive. So whether it's that or just because the whole sector is, the fact that it's the best day since January, I mean, that was a good tell in early January for what was coming for the next couple of months.
That's true. I mean, and think about some of these earnings reports that we've gotten. We've seen a name like, Canada Goose sell off 20% on the back of its earnings, or Abercrombie & Fitch sell off 20+%, and they actually reported a growth in comparable sales. So we've had some pretty outsized reactions and a lot of fear of the unknown. We talk about that every day with the uncertainty about what could potentially happen if we have the fourth tranche of tariffs that go into effect. If that happens, none of the retailers are accounting for that right now because it is such a big unknown, but that could really hurt. So I think we've had some accelerated pain that maybe was a little bit too early.
So, Jan, if there are more...
Sarah, for the first quarter, GameStop reporting earnings per share of 7 cents adjusted. The street had been looking for a loss of 3 cents, so that's better than estimates. Revenues, however, missing $1.55 billion. The street had been looking for more than $1.6 billion. Comp store sales down 10.3%. Analysts had been looking for those to fall, but fall 7%. GameStop is also eliminating its dividend. It has a new CEO. It's working on a turnaround plan. They want to use that money instead to invest in the business. And they did give us an outlook for sales, at least, to fall 5 to 10%. But that's better than the street had been forecasting, a drop of about 13%. Shares are bouncing around here after hours, but right now we're lower by about 8% for GameStop. Back to you, Wolf.
Courtney, thanks very much for that. Mike Down off tomorrow. Courtney Reagan has a look at what to watch. Always a lively day. Court.
It's a multiple day event, Wilfred. Shareholders in Northwest Arkansas is this annual 3-day event now that Walmart hosts for investors, employees, and media from really around the world. So it kicks off tomorrow morning with the shareholder business, including the election of the 12-person Walmart board. Bernie Sanders has been invited by Walmart employees to present a proposal requesting hourly workers get a seat on the company's board. It's not expected to pass, but Walmart is expanding college education benefits to high school students, an announcement it made today, hoping it will be a recruiting tool. Now, only 25,000 of Walmart's 1.5 million workers currently are high schoolers, so it's a pipeline they really haven't tapped. Sarah?
Courtney, thank you.
Joins us with details and what we might expect later this morning. Hi, Court.
Hi, Carl. So what was originally going to be a pretty quiet meeting has turned into quite the opposite. Democratic presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders has a history of lobbying big companies like Walmart and Amazon to pay higher wages. Last year, you might remember, the senator introduced the Stop Walmart Act to prevent corporations from doing stock buybacks unless they pay all workers at least $15 an hour. Walmart says it will, quote, respond to specific shareholder proposals once they are formally presented. And, quote, if Senator Sanders attends, we hope he will approach his visit not as a campaign stop, but as a constructive opportunity to learn about the many ways we're working to provide increased economic opportunity, mobility, and benefits to our associates. The proposal for the board seat for hourly associates not expected to pass. The founding Walton family owns a majority of those voting shares. Back over to you.
Hey, Court, obviously, a few years ago, they would argue they got in front of all of this. How much of that are they likely to employ as an argument later today?
Exactly, Carl. So they've raised their minimum wage 2 times since 2016. At the time, going from $7 to now we're about $11 an hour for the starting wage. And Walmart CEO Doug McMillon told us in April, look, when you put it all together with our pay, with our benefits, the average hourly pay is actually $17.50. So I imagine those are some of the figures that they're going to come back with today. But this is going to be interesting. I've been at shareholder meetings from Walmart for many, many years. I've never seen something like this before, with a Democratic hopeful presidential candidate presenting one of the proposals. But they say he'll be treated just like anyone else. He gets 3 minutes to make his case.
All right, Courtney, thank you. When we come back, President Trump continuing his tour.
Joins us once again with some details on what we might hear actually later on this hour, Court.
That's right, Carl. So Walmart shareholder meeting is going to start in about 15 minutes from now. Senator Bernie Sanders has arrived. We understand Senator Sanders has a history of lobbying big companies like Walmart and Amazon to pay higher wages. You might remember last year the senator introduced the Stop Walmart Act to prevent corporations from doing stock buybacks unless they pay all workers at least $15 an hour. Walmart says if Senator Sanders attends, and we know he's there now, we hope he will approach his visit not as a campaign stop, but as a constructive opportunity to learn about the many ways we're working to provide increased economic opportunity, mobility, and benefits to our associates. Now, the proposal for the board seat for hourly associates, that's not expected to pass. The founding Walton family does own a majority of the shares, but it's expected now to be a little bit more of an exciting meeting than we had originally thought. Back over to you.
Yeah, Court, definitely one we're going to watch, especially as this hour unfolds. I suspect we'll be seeing more from you for it. Walmart's been really kind of, in terms of the retail landscape, though, they've been on the forefront in terms of raising wages. I realize $11 an hour, maybe it's lower than Amazon at $15 or some of their other competitors. Would you say that they have been resistant to future increases if needed?
So resistant is a strong word. I did ask in the beginning of April Doug McMillon exactly the question of if they've decided that raising wages sort of on a broad scale is not the way to go. And he basically said, look, we've been doing a lot of things. We did raise our wages pretty substantially a couple years ago. And then we've added all of these employee benefits. He says when you look at the landscape and you take pay and benefits together, the average hourly worker makes $17.50 an hour. Now, of course, benefits is not exactly straight out pay. But when we've asked Walmart if they won't do it, they haven't said they won't. But they've been sort of adding other additional employee incentives, and then just yesterday announced those college programs for high schoolers to try to attract that cohort, which is quite underrepresented at Walmart. Only 25,000, 1.5 million associates are current high school students.
Courtney, Reagan, thank you for putting it all in perspective for us. When we come back,
Courtney, what can you tell us?
Hi, good morning, Becky. So it's day 2 here for Walmart Shareholders Week in Northwest Arkansas. And normally the shareholder business is pretty uneventful, but not the case this year when presidential candidate Bernie. Now, Walmart CEO Doug McMillon did address Walmart wages ahead of Sanders' comments at the beginning of that 25-minute shareholder meeting. Now, today, Walmart executives will be giving store tours and media briefings, and that, of course, is ahead of the big celebratory event at the arena on Friday morning. Back over to you.
Courtney, thank you. We'll be watching through the day. Joining us right now to talk about a look at the company's previous plans and where they stand today. Morning, Courtney.
Hi, good morning to you, Sarah. So Walmart shareholders well underway here in Northwest Arkansas. Of course, the shareholder business meeting kicking off the events yesterday, attended by Senator Bernie Sanders, who presented a proposal on behalf of an employee. Today, executives giving store tours. We're here at a Sam's Club in Springdale, also some media briefings. And each year, Walmart has, for at least for the last several years, given us some kind of announcement during this week. Typically a pilot program largely connected to e-commerce. But if you look back the last several years, many of those announcements have not panned out to be big material adds to the Walmart business. So in 2016, Walmart announced that it So while there's still a lot of time left, we don't yet have an announcement, but it's just worth the context and perspective that often we get a lot of good talkers during this week, but so far haven't added materially to the business. Back over to you.
And Courtney, we've been sort of reviewing the carnage in some of the department store names so far this year. Walmart's having a pretty good year. It's up 12.5%. I mean, I know it's a consumer staple, which has also been in demand, but what's driving that kind of strength in Walmart, in traffic and e-commerce and whatever they're doing that you just outlined that's making them such a strong outperformer?
Sure. So Walmart is doing a lot of things. You mentioned initially it is the world's largest retailer, so they play in a lot of areas. But in the U.S. business, which is the predominant and the largest business, more than half of what Walmart sells is grocery. And that's an area that the retailer has been heavily investing in, not just in the product, but also at the prices at which that product is sold. It is a traffic driver. We know that from the store traffic numbers that we get every quarter, as well as those same store sales that Walmart has been able to put up. So grocery is a very, very important part of Walmart's business, and everything that they're adding for the online options for that grocery. You can get it delivered to your home in many of these locations. You also can choose to pick it up at a store. Sam's Club also is rolling out a number of digital enhancements, which is part of the Walmart business. So that's going to be a big differentiator between a Walmart and, say, a Macy's, which is a very discretionary spending type of segment. Walmart is a staple. It offers consumers right now what they want at the prices that are very, very competitive.
Courtney, thank you. Courtney Reagan. Sticking with retail, take a look at names.
They've recovered from the Bernie invasion yet down there, Courtney?
I think so. It's been a couple days, and there's been a lot of action in the in-between. So we have this big celebratory event. You know, it happens every year on this Friday in June. That's going to happen behind me in a couple hours. But before that, Walmart decided it was going to announce a new in-home delivery program. So this means that Walmart employees are going to be able to deliver groceries ordered online directly into your fridge or your garage starting this fall in 3 cities: St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Vero Beach, Florida. So Walmart's head of U.S. e-commerce, Mark Lawrence, your fridge and then leave by locking the door. Now, I asked Mark Lawrence about other possibilities that could be an add-on for this in-home delivery. Here's what he said. So you might remember that Walmart talked about testing something like this initially in Silicon Valley, and it was working with August Home and Deliv. So it was Deliv drivers that were actually making the deliveries and going into the home. Later then, it did a test in New Jersey with Walmart employees. It was more vertically integrated, and that's much closer to what they're offering right now. Remember, Amazon does offer a similar program, Amazon Key, with the lock system. Their employees also have the cameras on the vest that you can watch that delivery happen as well. Back over to you.
Are they crazy, Courtney? I can't imagine saying, sure, have free reign in my house.
So it's funny that you say that, and of course that was a big question, and everyone's been talking about the security of it, and that's why they did these several different tests, and that's why they started with these Deliv drivers and then ultimately decided that the trust factor was going to be better with a Walmart employee that was vetted, that was a W-2 employee, that was specially trained with the cameras. They said they had a pretty decent-sized testing group, and they made sure that they included people that were skeptics. They included repeat customers, and they incorporated a lot of the information. Mark Lawrence had a really interesting analogy. He said, think about it like Airbnb, right? There's going to be some early adopters, and there's going to be some other people that think, no way I'm letting a stranger come into my house.
Yeah,
but then over time, it becomes more normal.
Still no way. I think there should be a Hollywood movie called Prime Suspect, and the killer is the Amazon.
You know, but like think about the Airbnb example, right? People
leave it on my doorstep. I get groceries delivered all the I get groceries delivered all the time. You can leave them on my doorstep. I don't need to give you access to my house.
You can.
Right.
That's true. You can do that too.
You want strangers running around in your house? Not to mention, is the place clean when they come through?
There you go. That's probably
that too. Anyway, Courtney, thank you. Great to see you.
From Fayetteville, Arkansas, with more of the details. Hey, Court.
Hi, good morning to you, Morgan. So the annual Walmart shareholders celebratory meeting is happening in this arena behind me. But this morning, Walmart came out with an announcement for in-home delivery, betting that shoppers are going to love the convenience of being able to have groceries delivered directly into their fridge or their garages in 3 cities this fall: St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Vero Beach, Florida. Now, Amazon does have a similar program, Amazon Key, where you also have to have a special smart lock installation. You can choose from one of a number of options. It's available in about 50 U.S. cities. Those delivery workers also have a camera, so you can watch either a live stream of the delivery or video clips. But that's for general merchandise as opposed to fresh or frozen grocery that would go right into your fridge. Morgan, back over to you.
All right, Court, I'll take it. Thank you very much, Courtney, who's been doing such a great work on Walmart all week long. As we said,
in Fayetteville, Arkansas, with more. Courtney.
Hi, John. That's right. That celebration taking place in the arena right behind me. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon just taking the stage, talking to employees about this new in-home delivery program that the retailer announced today. So starting in the fall in 3 cities, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Vero Beach, Florida, about 1 million customers will be able to have Walmart employees deliver groceries directly into their fridge or their garage if they so choose. Walmart's head of U.S. e-commerce, Mark Lowry, tells me that Walmart will eventually be able to install these smart locks on your door. You'll get a unique 4-digit code that will only be able to be opened during a specified period of time. A Walmart employee will make the delivery, but the delivery will only happen if the camera on the vest is live and active, so you can actually watch a live stream of the delivery taking place with those groceries going right in to your fridge. And then I asked Mark Lowry what the possibility of other opportunities this could open up if you've got an associate literally walking inside your home. Take a listen. Now, of course, Amazon does have an Amazon Key program that's available in around 50 cities. It also has a smart lock system that you have to buy. That's for general merchandise, not grocery. But this is an idea that has been out there, and Walmart is rolling it out in the fall, at least in these 3 cities. Back over to you at the New York Stock Exchange.
all right, Court, sounding a lot like announcements we've heard from some other companies. Courtney Reagan at Walmart. Squawk.
Hi, Wolf. It's been a very big week here in Northwest Arkansas, and Walmart CEO Doug McMillon ending the week by taking some questions from media. I asked him, what is the tariff percentage level on imported products from Mexico, fresh produce, things like tomatoes and avocados, that Walmart would face that would force its hand in raising prices on fresh produce? And Doug McMillon said, quote, "We don't want to have prices go up on those fresh items for customers. We're going to resist it as long as we can." McMillon also talked a little bit about the company's move into the advertising business, said that there's a lot to consider, but they're going to make sure that they value privacy practices, and they'll even sacrifice growth and profitability if they have to do so. Back over to you.
Court, is that taking the hit from the tariffs type tactics something that you've seen across this space, or is it just Walmart with its scale and size that's able to take that on?
So I think if you have a retailer like a Walmart or like a Target, we've heard Brian Cornell talk about this too, they have a lot of different categories. And so the phrase they use is they have a lot of different levers that they can pull. So if prices go higher in any one area because of tariffs or because of something else, then they can look to other categories to help offset it. So if there's a product category that customers are very sensitive to, so in this case, we're talking about something like avocados or tomatoes, something that you know the price of because you buy it often, maybe that's not the place to raise prices, even if your costs are higher. Maybe you use another category to do so. So if you are a retailer like Walmart that has a lot of different categories, these are the strategies that retailers are looking at deploying when they can, at least in the short term, as part of the mitigation plans.
Courtney Reagan, thank you very much.